Hello, thank you for tuning into my channel. I'm going to be making a quilted coaster today. So if you want more information about how to make one of these, please stay tuned. I've laid out 3 of the coasters that I've made here, and each one of these coasters is going to feature the log cabin pattern. So you see that half of it is white, and then the other half is light gray into dark gray going into black. You see that pattern on each one of those, and we're also going to try, in addition to this pattern, we're going to be quilting as we go. So when we sew everything together, the backing and the batting are already going to be on there, and that's why you see the stitching lines on the back and nothing on the front. And this quilts everything automatically, so the only thing that you have to do when you're done is bind it. So let's get started. I have all my materials laid out to get started. So we need our backing fabric, and you see this there. In a minute it's going to be pretty side down. And then we have our batting. I'm using 5-inch squares of both the batting and the backing fabric. And I'm going to be using strips of various lengths to create our log cabin. Now these are going to be cut as we sew. Each little strip is going to be cut a little bit smaller to fit, but all of these patterns are going to be used to create our coaster. So the first thing that we do is we're going to turn the batting side right side down, and then we'll put the batting on top of that. Okay, and we're going to start with a white square and a light gray square. Okay, I'm going to place the white one as close to the middle as possible. I want my center seam to be right in the middle. Of course, I'm not measuring this at all. It's a complete eyeball. And then I'm going to put the gray fabric on it, right sides together. I'm going to sew a 1/4-inch seam right down the right side. As you can see, now I've sewn this first stitch here, and it's going to sew all 3 layers together. So there's the back thread, and the batting is also in there. So I'm going to pull this gray off and then give it a nice finger press. Okay, 1/4 turn. And every time that we put the fabric on top, we're going to just kind of fold it over. So I'm going to take my next strip, this white, and I'm going to put it on top. Okay, and I always like to cut it first, so I'll cut it so that it's close. Again, I'm just eyeballing this. You may want to be a little bit more precise. Okay. And again, I'm going to sew it along the right side. Okay, so this one is done now. You see the side seam. We're going to open that out, finger press, and same process. Give it 1/4 turn, and then we'll add our next white. Okay, this is kind of where it's going to be placed. I am going to cut the edge off and sew it, and then we repeat that same process until we have the entire thing covered. Right, I have one coaster finished, and you can see that the log cabin pattern here, okay, and then on the back, everything is all the quilting marks are there. And I didn't backstitch each one of these because every time you sew, it's covered up by a new stitch. So I didn't worry about backstitching. Also, the strips that I used were 1.5 inches wide, but I think when I make the next group, I'm going to do them a little bit smaller, like maybe 1 inch, so we can get a little bit more play on the colors in this coaster. And the only bad thing about this is that I actually have to bind it. So let's see how we did that. The next step for our coaster is going to be to bind it. So here's the front of the coaster. And I've already taken a 2-inch strip of fabric that I pressed in half. And I've sewn on 3 sides of the coaster. So I started about halfway down the first side and then the second side. And I've mitered the corner already. And then the third side is about halfway down too. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to miter these corners and pin it before I close this part off. So to miter the corner, I'm just going to turn it this way so it'll be easier. Okay, so I'm just going to take one side and you fold it up kind of at a 45-degree angle and then pull the other side down. Okay, and that's going to miter that part, and I'm just going to pin it in place. I'll take it down in just a minute, but this helps to get it started. So, and then I'll do the same thing on the other side. So I'll just give it a turn here. Well, I'll do it this way. Okay, so 45-degree angle up, like so, and then down. Okay, and you see it's right at the edge. Well, not quite. Let me go up a little bit higher. 45-degree angle up, and then down. And I'm going to pin these for just a second to get, just so I can get a measurement of how much fabric I'm really going to need. Alright, so after we do this step, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fold one side of this back, and I'm going to press it right here with my fingers because you need to get a good line that I'm going to draw on in just a second. And then I'm going to take this side and do the same thing, but you want to leave about a 1/4 inch in between. So there's the 1/4 inch in between. So now that I have my 1/4 inch in the middle of that, what I'm going to do is open each side out, and I'm going to draw 2 lines. Okay, got my fold marked. I'm going to draw a line in the, wait, let me make sure I got it right. Yeah. I'm going to draw a horizontal line, just a small one, right there. And then I'm going to draw where the fold was. I'm just going to draw a line up and a line down. Well, that was down first. And then up. Okay, and so it kind of looks like a little cross there. And then I can take this pin out, just for right now. Okay, and I'll do the same thing on the other side. Let me do that and I'll come right back. The cross that we got as a guide to create a 45-degree angle line across the fabric. So I'm going to do the same thing on this one. Excuse me. I'm just going to take the 45-degree angle mark here, and I've sat it at the bottom of the fabric, and I'm just going to slide it straight down. And this reminds me that there's a trick. You want to make sure that your lines go the same direction. So I'm going to turn my thing the other way to make sure that that my line goes the same direction. So there's the 45-degree line, and I'm just going to slide it straight down till I get to that point in the cross area. Okay. And then draw it in. Okay. Alright, now what you're going to do is you're going to take these and line them up so that the lines match completely. And they're going to be at a 90-degree angle. So I'm going to take these and I'm just going to pin it so that the lines match up. Let me do that off camera because it takes a minute, but it's going to look kind of like this. I have it pinned here. Okay, and so you can see that the pins are going through that line and then on the other side as well. And another tip is you want to make sure that when you pin it that you have both of your seam allowances on the same side. So both of these, I'm going to stitch along this line, and then the part that I'll cut off will be right here together. You don't want to have one side over here and one over there, because then it'll look weird and you have to repin and start over anyway. Alright, so I'm going to stitch along this line and cut off the excess. So this is the part that I've already cut off, so that when I get ready to sew it down, all I have to do is turn it out like that. And so that's how it's going to lay on my coaster. So at this point, I'll just finish sewing all the way around and miter the corners, then it'll be time to top stitch. The back of the coaster is finished. I've sewn around all four sides at this point, and I've also cut that excess that was around the edge, so the front looks like this. Now I'm going to take each side, I'm going to fold it over, and I'll probably do like a decorative stitch, like a zigzag or a curvy pattern across the top to seal the whole thing in.